when we were initiating this initiative, GeoRisk Network, it was very clear for us that we are not only fascinated by the scientific aspect and the hazard and the modeling, but also we are all dedicated to reducing the risk. So I very much appreciate this multidisciplinary panel. I pass it to John to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Sahar. Yes, I would like to introduce our last speaker, Dr. Nicolas Pondard. He is a disaster management specialist. He's worked across academia, government, and private industry for many years. Currently, he designs risk reduction and risk financing strategies at the World Bank. He supports the development of risk transfer solutions in the Pacific, specifically for the insurance risk pool called PCRIC, or the Pacific Catastrophe Risk Insurance Company. And Nico has some very interesting information to share with us about how this catastrophe risk pool was triggered by this Kamchatka tsunami event. So Nico, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. And I hope you can see my screen now. So yeah, I take that as a yes.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks everyone for the kind invitation. I would like to basically spend 5-10 minutes to show you how we've used the scientific information that has been discussed in this session to inform disaster risk financing, in particularly in the South Pacific, which are composed of mostly low and middle income countries. So to give you a little bit of context, here you go. So yeah, to give you a bit of context, this is a report that has been produced by the World Bank, and that shows the losses that can be expected from natural hazards globally all over the world. And this report is a bit old. It's been published in 2017, but it gives a good idea of the situation. Every year, natural hazards trigger more than $300 billion of damage across the world. That's the top figure you can see here. But if you look at the bottom figure, the same year, the record amount of humanitarian assistance that was provided to manage those natural hazards was only total $22 billion. So as you can see, there is a massive discrepancy between the impact of disasters and actually the finance that is available in order to respond to those disasters. And as a result, the population, particularly in low and middle income countries, have to face the disaster themselves. The losses fall down to the individuals. They lose their homes, they lose their lives, they lose their livelihood. And so we need to shift the paradigm from humanitarian assistance and I would say reactive response to proactive and anticipation activities. And for that reason, governments try to basically work together and find ways and mechanisms in order to be able to access to finance. And this could be in the form of loans, this could be in the form of building reserves, this could be in the form of buying insurance. But all of that is very, very difficult to do, particularly when you're in low and middle income countries. If I show the next one. So for that reason, the Pacific Island countries have got together and they have decided to create a facility that is called the Pacific Catastrophe Risk Insurance Company. It is actually not an insurance company. It's a not-for-profit development facility. It has been established in 2016. And the idea is that basically Pacific Island countries would pool resources together and really trying to set up pre-arranged disaster risk financing and associated services to the Pacific region. It's an initiative that has been created by the World Bank initially, and now it is independent. The purpose of this facility is not to be able to cover all the losses that government would have to manage following a disaster, but the idea is really to be able to get access to rapid liquidity, rapid cash, following a major disaster in order to respond to the immediate relief and response activity. Should it be, clearing infrastructure, Could it be providing food and equipment, or basically medicine supplies to impacted populations? Okay, and so this helps government to support their budget, and they have more confidence that because they have very limited budget, if they get access to this finance, they can maybe be able and confident that they can basically disburse and try to respond to the disaster, as opposed to letting individual dealing with the situation themselves. And so you have a list of the countries that here at the bottom. Okay, so one example of this mechanism, and I will show you how this connects to the science that has been discussed before in the next slide, is what we call parametric insurance. And this is very important. Parametric insurance is not your traditional insurance cover, you know, the way you insure your home or the way you insure your car. Instead, it is something that looks at pre-agreed parameters. And those pre-agreed parameters could be the category of a tropical cyclone. It could be the level of ground shaking following an earthquake. And this information is available almost immediately after the event, within the next few days. And based on that parameter, you define a trigger. If that trigger is exceeded, then a payout is provided within a few days after the disaster, as opposed to traditional insurance, where generally you would need to check the damage, and the payout would be provided 6 months to 12 months after a disaster, which is far too late, obviously. Okay. So the benefit, as I said, is that it's very rapid, and timing is really the issue here when you face an emergency. And it also helps to cover basically assets that may not have been able to be covered using traditional financial mechanism. The limitation, however, as I said, is that it is not connected to the damage. And so you could get cases where maybe the trigger has not been met. For example, the tropical cyclone category was too low, but still triggered damage. But because the trigger was too low, no payout has been provided. And so you need to have robust science to try to minimize the situation. So how does that relate with what we've been discussing before? So as has been discussed before, the Kamchatka earthquake had consequences that were far-reaching and went far beyond the Russian peninsula. And so when the tsunami got triggered, the wave propagated to the South Pacific countries. And in particular, you can see here with the figure from NOAA that the wave was relatively severe in the Solomon Islands and in Samoa, here in the middle of that figure. And so the Solomon Islands was not part of the program at the time. They have joined since. However, the government of Samoa was part of the program. And the government of Samoa had agreed to receive up to $1 million from that pool. How could this be triggered? So in order to be, as I said, proactive and fast, we have designed a solution that was actually based on the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center threat messages. So instead of waiting to check if a damage actually occurred, which would have basically taken weeks, actually, simply based on the threat warning, we could trigger payouts, and this enabled the government of Samoa to be confident that they would receive funds in order to support impacted population. And the way this is done, so based on the various threat messages from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, there are 3 types of messages. One is a warning of a wave below 1 meter. Another one is a warning of a wave between 1 to 3 meters. And another one is a wave of more than 3 meters. Based on those various levels, the government of Samoa received a share of basically the pre-agreed payout. In the case of that event, the warning was of a wave of 1 to 3 meters impacting the north of the coast of Samoa. As a result, within 10 days of the event, the government of Samoa received 30% of the fund that was pre-agreed. This corresponds to approximately $300,000, which of course can sound to be very small and very minimal, but actually does make a huge difference when it is provided at the right time. And so because it was given fairly quickly to the government of Samoa and they knew it was arriving, they've basically taken up on themselves to use some of their very limited budget to go clear the road and try to clean some debris and use that fund in order to do that. And this helped accelerating the relief and recovery effort. One last point I would like to make is that earlier it was discussed that, of course, the threat messages actually are sometimes inconsistent with the reality, and it was the case here, actually. The warning was of a wave of more than 1 meter. The actual wave at the coast was actually of 70 centimeters. So the threat warning was very conservative. In that case, for us, it's a good thing, and this is the reason we use the warnings, that because those warnings are designed for life safety, they tend to be more conservative. And so that means that the government tend to receive payouts more often than actually needed. So that's what we call a false positive. So so in that case, as I said, because we're not for-profit institution, this is a mechanism that works. So again, it's not a perfect solution, and those solutions actually exist also for earthquake, they exist for flood, they exist for tropical cyclone. It's far from being perfect, but it has the benefit of enabling the release of finances within a few days after an event, which is something that was not possible before, and hopefully makes an impact. So I'll stop there, and I'd be happy to answer any question. Thank you so much. And here you've got my contact details if you need to follow up. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nico. It's also important to note that Nico is part of the task force, so he has been with us in the past few months in shaping the initiative.